Hello, I am Jayantu Chatterjee from IIT Kanpur. We are discussing for the last several weeks and we will continue to discuss for the next few weeks this interesting topic of managing services in today's world and the contemporary issues. If you recall, in the last session we were discussing about the people quality and leadership quality of Arvind Eye Care Hospital, Arvind Eye Care Foundation. Today we will consolidate those learnings. In the last session we discussed that how in globally excellent top class service organizations in the world we observe a range of duality, certain dialectics, wherein at the leadership level we find strong will as well as humility, and at the employee level we find autonomy, latitude in decision making at the front line, as well as tight discipline, good standard work processes, scientific principles in information flow, workflow design, good high technical performances in waiting line management, queue management, line balancing and so on. Today I want to discuss in a little bit more detail the challenges faced by service organization employees. The concept that we discussed in the last session was that service employees are crucially important because happy service employees, I have called it HSE, they lead to happy service customers. We saw some of those diagrams, the service profit chain model of Heskett. We saw the service satisfaction mirror and the tight coupling between employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction. But even though conceptually this is very clear that in most high contact services customer loyalty, customer satisfaction obviously will depend on high performance at the touch points, and therefore capable, willing, happy, polite, accommodative service employees are essential to give a high touch point experience. So we want service employees to anticipate customer needs. They should be able to exercise their judgment and customize as necessary. They should be able to build personalized relationships. But these may sound common sense, they may sound simple, wise statements, but they are not easy in practice. The reason being, the service personnel are often called boundary spanners because they are at the boundary of the organization, they are front line of the organization. So they are between the external world, the market and the organization. That is one kind of boundary spanning they do. The other important aspect is that at the operations end, at the back end, people have very defined jobs. So cooks cook and accountants keep accounts. But at the front end, in a high class restaurant or in a top class consulting organization, the customer may come in contact with one person with an expectation that that person will not respond that this is not my job. That person will see to it that the customer gets right kind of service. response. So that's another kind of boundary spanning service personnel are required to do for excellence, that they can't let the ball drop. So whatever may be their speciality, they will have to carry the baton in the proper way so that the service reaches the customer in good time with good reliability. Also, if you see today's service organizations like Infosys or Wipro or Tata, TCS, where their employees are dispersed all over the world in small project teams in various locations, and they are at customers' premises often, and they will have to manage this duality then, the customer's interest as well as the organizational interest. Now the customer and the organization are in a commercial relationship, and therefore there will be some tension like in any other commercial relationship between the buyer and the seller. But the service employees have to conform to the rules and expectations of their customer where they are located, but at the same time they have to be guided by the moral commercial principles of their own organization. So delighting the customer and delighting their employer may sometimes come in conflict, and that you need to have mature people at the front end who will be able to balance these two sometimes conflicting demands. They need to be fast and efficient in executing the operational task. They have to do cross selling, upselling. They have to get the right kind of revenue, but at the same time they have to delight the customer. If you observe the people in operation in such organizations, you will understand that there is often an underlying tension which the service employee may not be free to express. So they will have suppressed anguish, they will have suppressed displeasure, anger, frustration. It is well depicted in many TV serials and movies where you see employees in this kind of frontline situation, depicting the conflict between the inner feelings of the person and the demand of the role. In fact, some researchers like Horschild and others have talked about this condition called, or this concept called emotional labor or managed heart. So this emotional labor where the organization expects the person, service person, frontline person to behave in a certain way, the customer expects that person to behave in a certain way, without paying any heed to that person's personal health condition, family condition, their personal woes, their personal anger and sorrow, and this is not easy to manage. So in conclusion today, I will like to draw your attention to this dynamics and this particular sort of system dynamic or causal loop diagram that is in front of you, developed at MIT Sloan School, and this is called the cycle of failure. So in this you will see all the things are interrelated. Again, that systems concept that we have often discussed, that low profit margin and high customer turnover are not isolated events. They come, if you go back here, low profit margin is derived from employee dissatisfaction, poor service attitude, and that will come from employees are bored because their jobs are not designed, their jobs are very narrow, they do not have latitude of decision making, and they are not allowed to exercise their own judgment, they are bound by very archaic, often archaic set of rules, very tight budgetary controls. And if this cycle is a cycle of failure, the employee cycle, automatically the customer cycle will also lead to high customer turnover and therefore low profit. So obviously in the same way, this is explained here, that this arises out of narrow job design, low skill level, higher emphasis on technology rather than on people, bored employees, etc., leading to low quality of service, high employee turnover. And the opposite of this will be the cycle of success, where we will have people with autonomy, good job description, good process design, but at the same time latitude for customization, personal response at the frontline employee level. They will have very high emphasis on efficiency and optimization and revenue, but they will at the same time have a belief that they are doing a job which goes beyond the Arvind case. There are many other such service organizations we will discuss, but we will see the cycle of success will be at play in such organizations when we look at their people. Obviously, it means that we will have to have longer term view, good pay, good benefits, focus on happiness of customers. So this point needs to be understood in today's session, that we expect a lot from the frontline employees, service personnel. They constantly are under pressure from customer expectation and from organizational expectation. They are always required to smile, show a cheerful face, behave politely, even though inside they may have different personal problems, different health problems, or displeasure or dissatisfaction. This constant duality is very stressful, and the organization has to create systems like the broadened job description, job rotation, involvement in organizational decision making, organization goal setting, so that that tension, that stress can be managed. On the other hand, you need to recruit such people who will try to learn the culture, the purpose, the strategy of the organization. They should have that attitude of learning, understanding, adapting. If therefore this right recruitment, right human resource development is managed to right kind of system, we can create the structure that will allow the employees to excel, and that will lead to the organizational, service organizational excellence. Thank you.